One of my favorite things about this hobby, or miniature painting in general, is the ability to create your own custom color scheme. I find that it makes me more invested in my army and just generally makes me care about them a little bit more when it feels unique to me. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Richard here from Crash Course Hobbies, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I come up with my own custom color schemes. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you've probably by now seen like my Purple Blood Angels, or what I call my Ancient Themed Custodies, or my Necrons. Point is, I just like custom color schemes, and I do have kind of a method for coming up with them that I use. It's worked for me. Keep in mind though that with miniature painting, there's no real rules, so whatever works for you, that's awesome, but I'm going to share with you guys how I come up with it. Now, the first thing you want to do is get some test models handy. Now, I would recommend using the actual models you're gonna want to paint, but maybe if you have other stuff laying around, that's fine too. Whether it's something that's 3D printed, or you've just got a ton of orcs laying around or whatever, and you just want to see how the paint behaves or colors go together, you can use those. But best case would be, like, for me, I'm working on a Tyranid color scheme right now, and so I'm going to use a bunch of termagants and use them as my test models. Now, I would recommend whatever you choose to use as test models to be something that's small and that's easily strippable. Don't use a big giant winged hive tyrant that's not going to fit in a Tupperware and be a pain in the butt to strip the paint later, because we are going to be stripping these models. Next, once you have your models ready, is look for some inspiration or come up with something that you think you're going to want to do. So whether it's, you know, color scheme from armor in a video game, or a patch of flowers you see on a walk, or the bag of chips that you're eating right now, the logos on those colors, whatever it might be, come up with some kind of inspiration. And what I mean by that is, don't go on Instagram and find somebody else's color scheme and take it and make it your own, which you absolutely can do, but that's not exactly what we're talking about here. But just have some colors in mind. Now, adversely to that, what I would also recommend is, when you go into painting, be brave with it and test some colors that you would never try together. Now, this is why I generally recommend having 10 to 15 test models, maybe even more, and just slap some colors down on them. Chances are, you know, the colors that you have in your head will probably work together. But the reason we're doing this testing is because I find that it is a lot more beneficial to actually physically see the colors and the paint on the model than to just have an idea of a color scheme in your head and to put it down and have it turn out good. So, you know, I would recommend base coat a bunch of your models different colors. So like for these Tyranids, I've got a bunch in the bone color, which is what I'm leaning towards, but then I did a few in like a glacial blue and a few in like a lighter pink, and just kind of gonna see where those go. And then just slap on different colors and see what you come up with. Generally, a good rule of thumb that I like to use is pick opposites on the color wheel, and then have one be kind of desaturated, kind of dark, or very light, and then the other one be kind of opposite. And I find that that's a good way to go to finding little ways to get highlight colors or something as like a pop. So you could give that a try too. Now, because we are testing a lot of different models, I find that it's really helpful to write the recipe down for whatever you're doing as you're painting it. So what I do is use like an index card or a sticky note, and I'll write the base coat layer, I'll write whatever I wash it in, I'll write highlight, whatever. And the reason for that is because if we're using a ton of different test minis and things like that, we might forget what we used on the one that we end up choosing. And I also find that just having recipes for your armies in general is super helpful, especially as you get more, because, you know, you may not paint a Space Marine for 6 months and then you go back to add something to your Salamander's army and you forget, which color did I highlight with, or what brand green did I use, or whatever it might be. And so having a drawer with, you know, I keep all my recipes for my different armies in my painting drawer, just being able to pull them out and say, okay, here's all the paints I used, here's the steps, is really helpful down the line if you're forgetful like I am. So just, it's a good practice to get into, so highly recommend making recipes. Don't be squeamish about it. Like I said, we're gonna paint these models, we're gonna paint them again and paint over them and strip them. If you don't get a scheme that you like on your first batch, then just either paint over them or strip them and do it again. Me personally, I'll just keep painting over it because I don't want to deal with the hassle of stripping them until I'm actually ready to do the final product, because it doesn't need to be perfect. And I guess to my final point is, when I do this, it's gonna be messy. The paint job is not gonna be good. This is about speed and about being able to physically see and compare colors. So don't waste 10 hours on each test model to see how perfect and crisp and nice they come out. While you could certainly do that, and painting these is their own fun. I mean, I think coming up with a custom color scheme is like the funnest part of painting an army, because it's when you have all this freedom and possibilities. But just, at least for me, I paint them quick, I paint them sloppy. I'm not worried about getting a little bit of, you know, overspray when I'm airbrushing or not getting the lines perfectly, because again, these are going to get stripped, these are going to get painted over. So, you know, like for these termagants, I'll paint one half of the model a certain color. Maybe the skin is bone white, airbrushed across all of it, and then I'll do one top of the scales black, and then I'll turn the model around and do the other side with a green or something, and then I don't have to use 2 test models to test 2 color schemes. So while this kind of only really works on like very symmetrical models like that, it's just to the point of, you know, it's quick and dirty process. I find that visually holding the model in your hand and looking at it with the end result is just way more beneficial to like a digital rendering or going on Photoshop and adding colors and stuff like that. So, but anyways, guys, that's how I come up with my custom color schemes. Once you've got one narrowed down, just take all of those test models that you had, put them in a Tupperware of simple green or like a 90% isopropyl, let them soak overnight, and then take a soft bristle toothbrush to them in the morning, clean all that paint off, and then reprime, and you're good to go. But hey, I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any other tips for coming up with color schemes, you can leave those down in the comments below. And as always, guys, please support your local game stores, and I will see you in the next one.